Hello and welcome to the Ditch That Textbook Digital Summit, where we are all about technology, pedagogy, those practical ideas that you can use in class tomorrow, bringing you all sorts of these topics that we know that you're really going to love. My name is Matt Miller. I'm the author of Ditch That Textbook and the host of the Summit. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about a topic that I see so many teachers talking about, so many educators in all walks of education talking about right now. And it is this tool called Jamboard. And Jamboard in some ways has been kind of like the remote learning hero. You know, like so many people have been using it in a variety of different ways. It's collaborative, it's visual, it's really cool. It is not necessarily those expensive interactive touch panel displays that some people get. It's a lot more than that. And some of the things that teachers have been using this for have been super practical. I mean, all the way up to the inspirational. It's been really, really cool to see how people have been using it. And to be able to talk a little bit more about that, and so we can get real practical and, you know, get some really good ideas out there, I called on my friend Maria. Maria Arfanakis has been using Jamboard some. And so just between the two of us, you know, Jamboard aficionados that have been using it some, we thought that we might be able to tell you a little bit about what it is and what you can do and what some of the cool features are and everything. So Maria, thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited to have you on here. Can you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Matt. I am Maria Arfanakis. I'm a K-8 innovation curriculist in Deerfield, Illinois. I live in Chicago. I'm married to Konstantinos Arfanakis. That's where my last name comes from. And then I have two little ones. We have two little ones, Gia, who's 8 and is in 3rd grade, and then Leo just turned 5. We are pretty much home right now, home learning, remote learning, working from home. So lots of home and keeping busy.
Yep, like so many other people are, I think. We're still face to face as of this moment. It's funny because these videos are gonna stay in the summit for years to come. So some people are gonna be looking back on this probably in the future and going, "Oh yeah, I remember when we were having to deal with all. Oh, thank goodness we don't have to do that."
Yeah.
I hope that's what you're thinking if you're watching this from the future. So yeah, Jamboard, this thing that we're going to be kind of talking about. I think it started out with Google as like an app to use with their interactive displays, and those interactive displays are expensive, and I don't think I know anybody that actually uses them, but I know a ton of people that use the tool. So for anybody that's watching this that just hasn't gotten to dig into Jamboard a little bit, Maria, how would you describe it? Like what is it?
So Jamboard, like Matt, explained, it goes along with the physical device, but you do not need to use the physical device to use it. It's an online collaborative interactive whiteboard. Free tool from Google and so simple yet very powerful to use.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one thing that some people I've heard several people ask this, and I think that this is kind of a cool question. The question is, what's the difference between Jamboard and Google Slides? I hear people say that, and I think that that's kind of a cool question because now, like, people are starting to see Google Slides as something a little bit more like you and I were just talking about off air, a little bit more than just oral reports in front of the class. So if you had to answer that question, and we can kind of bat this back and forth if you want, but if you had to answer that question, like what are some of the things that are different about them to you?
The first thing I feel like the main difference would be with Jamboard, there's writing, drawing capability. So if you have a touch screen, of course, it's easiest if you have a touch screen. You could do it with a trackpad, but you can write and draw. And I feel like this, especially during like remote learning, when a teacher wants to use it like a whiteboard, there you go. You can write on it. I mean, for math class, it's been, life-changing because they can use the drawing. So I think that's one of the main differences is the drawing capability. And then they have these sticky notes that they act like a little text, text box that would be a little similar in Google Slides, but they're super quick. You just click on a sticky just like you're doing. You could change the colors and they appear right on your Jamboard. They're easy to move around. And this has been a game changer for collaboration and um, using everybody's voice in the conversation. People could, if it's a collaborative opportunity, you can grab one of those sticky notes and share your ideas. So I would say those two might be my top main, differences from a Google Slides. And then there's one more.
Okay.
The other one would probably be, and I hear a lot of chatter about this, um, about a reason that people don't really like it, and it's that there is no revision version history. So
There-
if you were to lose some work or delete something, you can undo, but you can't like go to a past version.
Mhm.
But do you want to hear something exciting?
Yes.
And something that I think is going to make a lot of, the people who are not as excited about it because of this feature, but it's in development.
Oh, really?
Yes, the previous version, history is in development, and it should be here early 2021.
Nice.
So yes,
Wow. That's great news. That's awesome.
I know.
Yeah,
I
and
just learned it.
I've heard that as well. Another thing that I've heard people say about Jamboard that causes that confusion is that you have like one of these whiteboards right here is like a frame, right? And then you can add multiple frames to it. So if I create this next arrow, now we have a second frame. So I'll like use my little pin here, and this is number 2, and then this is number 3, and this is number 4. And then I can click up here and you can see there are all of my frames. There's 4, there's 3, there's 2, there's 1. And so I can go back to any one of them at any moment. And you can even have multiple kids on different ones. So in that way, it does kind of look like slides. But I think if you think about what the tool was developed for, like, slides was developed to do presentations on a projector with finished slides. And Jamboard was made more like a, brainstorming, get your ideas down type of tool. And when you think about that, I think that sort of clears it up. And when it comes to Jamboard, I kind of alluded to this earlier that in some ways, Jamboard has kind of been the hero of remote learning because, it really does. You can have multiple people on a jam. That's what they call the whole file is a jam. So you're able to kind of like draw at the same time. And, so of course, face to face, you can do that and be in the same space. Virtually, you can do that as well. And so I just wanted to kick that over to you and see, do you sort of agree with that? Have you seen that, a lot of people have gotten good use out of this in remote and hybrid learning?
100%. It really is such a powerful tool for virtual learning. And if I can share this, one of the first things that enticed me to Jamboard was in the spring when it was more like emergency learning. Everybody was home. And in my school district, our TAs, our teaching assistants, happened to have Chromebooks. And we use Zoom. So I was getting messages from them and they were like, Maria, the whiteboard feature in Zoom isn't working for our Chromebooks. It wasn't compatible. So I was like, let's try Jamboard, So what I love about it is that it works pretty much on any device, Chromebooks, laptops, desktops, iPads. So I love that it's a tool that can work on almost any device. So that's the first thing that kind of like triggered. And then, fast forward into, the new school year when we were like, a lot of us were going to be starting probably remote, like we did actually. And so Jamboard, like you mentioned, being this amazing whiteboard collaboration like you kind of have in the classroom, it was a great way to kind of bring that physical classroom space into, your home. And so you can do different like activities with it when everybody can join and collaborate on it to make you feel like you're in your classroom and everybody having like a conversation and giving input. So those are a couple of the things that really like made this a big hit for us in virtual learning.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree with you. So, okay, so we've kind of got an idea of what this is all about. So now let's get to the good stuff. Okay, let's start talking about some ways that we've seen this used. And Maria and I will probably bounce this back and forth because we're both kind of Jamboard geeks. Like, we both like it and have seen so many cool things. That's the other nice thing about being connected on social media is you get to see what a lot of other people are doing too. So Maria, let's start this kind of back and forth, this little ping pong game where we'll bounce it back and forth to each other. What's something that you have found to be helpful with Jamboard?
So one of the things, and I have some slides of this. So one of the things that was a huge hit with Jamboard was with our Zoom calls where teachers wanted to create breakout rooms,
Mm-hmm.
but couldn't physically be in all of those breakout rooms at the same time. There's the
Mm-hmm.
example. This is a perfect one. They created one Jamboard just like this that all the students were a part of,
Mm-hmm.
and the teacher divided the frames up, by the breakout room. So if I was in breakout room 1, I would go to this frame, 2 would go to this frame. And so the beauty is, and you could see from this teacher's tweet that, he could be in all of the rooms at the same time because he can see what everybody was working on. So that was a game changer for the breakout room situation where a teacher can't be at the same, in all the rooms at the same time. So this was huge.
Yeah, I love this. This is so smart. I'm gonna have to go find Todd and follow him like immediately on Twitter.
Yay.
But the other thing that's cool about this, if you look at this picture, is that yes, you can see all of these frames. These are the different. Consider this like this is almost like if you were in a physical space. This would be like having whiteboards all over your room.
Mhm.
And so over on this wall, you would have one whiteboard, and then these 3 students would be on it. And then on this next whiteboard, it would be 3 more students on it. And so it's almost like like Ed Campos out in California.
Yeah.
He's an awesome guy, math guy, and he's got this idea called I think it's called 360 math, and he's big on getting whiteboard type spaces all over the physical room. This is almost like Ed's idea, but virtually, kind of, sort of,
Virtually.
you know.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you've got
I
these
love
little
that.
yeah, and you've got these little circles up here which show you who the students are that are on each one. So, for some, and I know with some schools, like the seat time and the attendance and the like, are they really there present at school? Like that's
Mhm.
something that is a focus for some people. And instead of forcing kids to be on hours long Zoom calls so that you can say that they're there, like
Mhm.
that's one way that you can monitor that kids are there. And then you go jump in and see their progress. And that's even more.
Yeah.
I would say that is, for me, that would be way more effective than just forcing me to sit and listen to a teacher lecture.
Absolutely. You have time to like kind of take in and see, oh, they're missing X, Y, and Z. Maybe I know what I'm gonna jump in and help them with. Or
Mhm.
you can see progress at a different level, which is it's really powerful. So this was huge for us.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I love this. So the way to do the breakout rooms, if you wanted to tell someone, like, I mean, just
Mhm.
very generally, very simply, if they saw this and they're like, oh, this is so cool. Maria, how do I do this? How would they do it?
Mhm. Basically, you're going to create one jam, and that's what, like, when you're creating a Jamboard file, a jam is one file. So
Hmm.
you can create that and add multiple frames at the top,
Hmm.
and you would replicate if you're going to have, like, let's say 7 breakout rooms, whatever you have, you can just replicate on each slide.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, for example, from Todd's example, he had taken a screenshot of a reading uh, piece that they were going to evaluate or
Hmm.
analyze, and
Hmm.
so he just inserted that onto each frame.
Hmm. And I'm
And
using this little duplicate option. So this is up here at the top. You got the little 3 dots and you hit duplicate. So if you want the same thing in multiple breakout rooms, then you could potentially just delete those frames, or sorry, duplicate those frames, right?
absolutely, yep,
Yeah.
you can duplicate those. Um, there's a beautiful new update that just got released, I don't know, yesterday, the day before, where
Mhm.
you can set the background. So
Yes.
you can set the background of a frame to an image, just like that piece that Todd had, and then students can annotate right on it. So
Mhm.
this is a really great thing because whatever is on the background won't move around.
Mhm.
What happened before is a teacher would just put an image of whatever it was that the students had to analyze or annotate, and then what happens, it moves around, it shifts around.
Mm.
This is going to alleviate that, so it makes that part a lot easier.
Yeah. And going back to Todd's example here, it looks like he's got some columns of text on here. And so
Mhm.
if you took like a screenshot almost of that text, you take a screenshot of it off of a web page or off of, a digital book or whatever, and then you use that screenshot as the background. Now, students would be able to come in with their pen and maybe even with like their highlighter and then go
Highlighter.
and highlight certain parts with the highlighter because the highlighter is a little more see-through and it's nice and wide and everything. And you could even have, each student with their own different color highlighter, and then they could
Mhm.
take their sticky notes and they could use the sticky notes to describe why it is that they highlighted certain things, right?
Absolutely, that's a beautiful example right there.
Yeah, exactly. See, this is what happens when you get two Jamboard nerds together, like me and Maria. We just keep like kind of ripping off of each other. So, um,
And then one more component to that, the creation of that jam would be how you share it.
oh, right. Yes, thank
So
you.
so when you're done making your, Jamboard template, if you will, you
Hmm.
would then change the share settings just like you would in another type of Google app. You would click on share, and then on the bottom you would select anyone with the link,
Hmm.
and then to the right you would switch it from viewer to editor.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then you take that link, you copy that link, and there's different ways you can share that out. A lot of times, teachers will just share that once all the students join into the Zoom call or the Google Meet. Everybody's there, they talk about what the lesson's going to be. They'll throw that link in the chat, and
Hmm.
the students go in the chat, open it up, and boom. Another way is sharing it via your learning management system. The one thing about that is if it's an editable version and you share it maybe a little too soon, people might start editing it before you really want them to. So some
Hmm.
things to consider.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I absolutely love that, and I also one another thing that I love about that idea of using it as almost like a breakout room is it just kind of goes further to show you that virtual learning, remote learning, hybrid learning, whatever, doesn't have to be all Zoom calls all the time and all teacher driven, teacher at the front, students sitting passively listening all the time. I think that's one of the big misconceptions out in the world right now, that remote learning is all about the teacher lecturing and the students sitting on mute quietly with their cameras on going.
Right.
And it's like,
So
yeah,
such a great point.
yeah, yeah. So,
That's such a great point. I love tools like this, that allow students to use their voice. They can be a part, they can engage in the lesson and not just like you said, just be there on mute and listening to you know um just like a lecture that barely ever happens. But this lets the all students have an opportunity to share some of their thoughts.
yes, totally agree. Okay, so as far as breakout rooms go, are
Yep.
we good on that and ready to move on to something else?
Yes, we're great on that. There's, if you're going to be doing breakout rooms, there's some good tips, like breakout room tips, but we don't have to go over that right now. But this is a resource that we can share with the
Yes.
viewers. And there's some amazing breakout room tips. For example, to have breakout rooms like effective. Oh,
Hmm.
here's Esther.
Oh,
She
yeah,
just
that's
she
right.
did. Yes, she's one of the speakers. She's amazing. She uses Jamboard, and the things that she shares that she does with it in her classroom are phenomenal. Here's one. Just recently, she shared this for your breakout room tips to assign specific roles. and use different colors to identify roles. And this really helps, any kind of, not really, it just helps like focus on what students should be doing in the breakout rooms and makes it more effective.
Yeah.
And so tips like this really help.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
Yeah, that's cool. You want to know a little secret here that you don't know, but anybody who has watched Esther's session before you already knows, is that she actually talked about this a little bit. So I think that's cool, because that means that both of you think that it's important enough that you included it in your presentation. So
yes,
that's
big shout out to her. She's amazing.
yes, yes.
Esther.
And by the way, just like Maria mentioned, this slide presentation that you're seeing over here, jump into your PDF notes for Maria's session, and there's going to be a link directly to this slide presentation. So as you can see, she has even more breakout room tips. She's got all of this stuff in here, so you can go dig into her slides. We won't get to everything because she's got a lot of really good stuff in here, but definitely go dig into that. So. Okay, so I'll do one real quick, and I think that you may have alluded to some of this and some of the stuff that you shared. And one thing that I think Jamboard is really good for, that's super easy and low prep, is to use it for graphic organizers. And see, one of the reasons, I'm going to type that in real quick so that it's down there. One of the reasons I love graphic organizers is they're kind of like better than a worksheet. If you want kids to get repetitions, if you want them to work with content, do things with content, graphic organizers kind of like walk them through a line of thinking instead of forcing them to regurgitate facts. And so, even putting something as simple as a Venn diagram up there and then having drag sticky notes onto it, or having like, Esther had a 4 corners activity, and you could drag your sticky note to where you fall on that spectrum. There's the real simple this or that ones, which I've seen a lot of teachers use those like this or that would you rather type of questions as a fun way to do attendance at the beginning of class, which I thought was such a super cool idea, right? So
Awesome.
yeah, so just doing, setting up a simple graphic organizer. If you were going to make photocopies of it and give it to students, you might be able to do it on Jamboard just as well. And what, of course, makes technology better is if it can amplify and improve the task. So it may even let you do some things that you couldn't otherwise do, like throw images into your graphic organizer, or collaboration. Obviously, that's a lot easier on Jamboard than it would be on a piece of paper. So thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so you made me remember another thing that was amazing about Jamboard. One time we went to, it was actually Google Chicago, and one of the sessions was about Jamboard. And so they had everybody in the space in different groups, and on the floor was just different items. And our task was to build an instrument. And I think this is like done in a lot of science classes. So
Yeah.
we built an instrument in our small group, and we used Jamboard to add all of our observations and our notes, and we used images and drawings, and all of us collaborated on one. And I could see the use of a Venn diagram or something like that to organize it all, making it even more powerful. So I think that's very powerful. Like you said, it's doing something, amplifying it, like you really couldn't do so much if you use paper. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So what should we do next? Do you want to go on with some more ideas in the classroom, or?
Sure. I have a couple more examples in there. We could just fly through them. You mentioned one, which was the 4 corners. And we had a teacher she was so excited. She said, who said you can't do debates over Zoom? And she used the 4 corners and had some really amazing conversations and discussions, with using Jamboard as the place to add everything to. So this was awesome. So using the 4 corners for debate, I think, is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great. One thing that I like about this is that this gives a very clear visual representation of the results and how students feel, that you wouldn't get if you just did a verbal debate. It's like creating that mental model of how is the, how does the class feel overall about this? And the other thing I like about this too is I could imagine that you could even potentially do this like a spectrum of sorts. I guess you could go like from strongly agree over here, almost linear, over to strongly disagree. And you could have students like sort of in between, like maybe Liza here is kind of between strongly agree and strongly disagree. So then you've got like shades of, it doesn't have to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. It could be kind of in the middle, right?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. That could be powerful. And then you can like see, like you said, like, okay, there's a few that agree. Let's talk about like, why is it so few? Why is it, so many disagree? And the discussions are just great. And the visual to it just lends itself. So this was really successful.
Yes. Very good. Okay. So what have we done so far? We talked about breakout rooms. We talked about graphic organizers. We talked about class debates. Let me throw another quick one out there and see what you think about it. See, Maria is like so way more prepared than me because she's got these gorgeous slides and examples and everything. And I'm like, here's a thing we could do, I think. Like I don't have any examples in front of me, but so like kudos to Maria for that one.
Most of the templates and everything came from your so
well, there is some stuff on the Ditch That Textbook website about Jamboard, but I'm all about curating people's stuff too, just like you. Here's one that I wanted to go with, and the sketch notes part probably is easier if you have touchscreen devices. Trying to draw on a Jamboard with a touchpad, like a clicky touchpad, is like a super headache. Even with a mouse, it is. But I think you can even go with infographics on this too. The reason I love talking about these, there's this one little piece of research that I refer to all the time. It's this thing called dual coding theory, and it talks about the way that our brain encodes information into our long-term memory. And it says that we encode images differently than we encode text. So if we can do that verbal visual mix in our learning, then we're encoding two different ways, and it has a better chance of sticking in our long-term memory. And so that's kind of the power of sketch notes and the power of infographics too, I think. So when you think of sketch notes, I think a lot of times you think of, let me come over here to a blank one. Whenever you think of sketch notes, I think sometimes you think of somebody, kind of like drawing, a little, kind of like a little doodle like this, and then writing some text in right next to it. And then maybe you'll have a little arrow over here, and then there will be some other little image and some more text, and it kind of all goes, and it looks sketchy and handwritten and everything. That's one way to do it. But see, the neat thing about having a tool like Jamboard is that it offers multiple modalities on that, because you can do it with your hand. You could do it with a, kind of like a stylus. You could do it with your finger or whatever right there on the touch screen. Or you could start using images. And let's say, we do a Google image search and we search for, an image of the White House. And let's use that one right there, and we throw that in. And see, notice now the beauty, I think, of the sketch note is that it is verbal and visual. Well, if you don't like drawing, or you don't feel like you're a good drawer, or you just don't want to, if that's the case, or B, you just want to do something a little bit different, you can get verbal and visual in different ways. So you can actually draw it out yourself and write it out yourself, or you can use images and text boxes. And, kind of, this almost becomes, it almost ends up being like a little digital poster of sorts. And then, like you were saying earlier, whenever you make it collaborative, if I have my one digital poster here and somebody else's digital poster is here and someone else's is here, then whenever we're done with the work, we can all go right off and check out each other's stuff. So it becomes kind of like that collaborative space. So that's another thing that I think is super cool when it comes to
Um,
Jamboard.
I absolutely love it. One of the examples, but it's not until the very end, was I created a sketch note using the app version. I could have used the Chromebook because the touchscreen, but um, I had to make a sketch note for a science pilot last year with a colleague, and Jamboard was what I chose to do it because of, number one, it was so easy. I'm not a sketch noter, but
Mhm.
I wanted to like make this cool graphic for it. It
Mhm.
was so easy to use because, like you said, you can add graphics. You can use like the highlighter or the paintbrush to give it like some depth and make it look like artsy. And it was just so cool. I love
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah,
glad you brought that
absolutely.
up.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Okay, ball's back in your court. You want to come up with another one for us?
All right, let's see. So our PLN, our professional learning network, is so incredible. Some of the ideas that people get from to use Jamboards are from these amazing collections. So, like I mentioned, you have been an inspiration because like a few of your posts have all these incredible templates. So, I just wanted to highlight that on one of the slides
Hmm.
there is resources and wakelets and all these things. And we could even pull up one of the wakelets so we can see, um, just to show what is out there to get inspired from people. I think it's right.
Another
Go
one?
up one more, maybe two more, go up. It's got a lot of text. That one right there.
Oh,
It's
there it
like the
is.
one, it's like my text no slide, but there's like a lot of a lot of good reasons. But I wanted to highlight that. Go ahead and open up one of yours or one of the wakelets so people could see the collections that are out there to
Yeah.
go look for. You can make copies of them, get inspired. There's just so much great stuff out there. And now that like the school year has, obviously started, people have like gone in and used it quite some bit. So there's great examples.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, look at all of these ideas. By the way, this curated from my good friend Holly Clark from the Infused
Yes.
Classroom. She's fantastic. And there's a lot of stuff just on this one collection. And see, they just keep loading up the more that I scroll down. And what's neat about these, of course, is that if you click on any of these, there's a jam check-in by the fantastic Chris Shiner, who has made a
Yes.
whole bunch of really good templates. So you open one of these up, and then if you want to use this yourself, see, notice this one, it says view only, right? So you might look at this
Mhm.
and go, oh man, I really want to use this one, but it's only view only, and I can't use this with my students. Guess what? Right there, you click on the three dots and you go to make a copy, and it's going to make a copy of that template and stick it right into your Google Drive so that yes, you can use it with your students, any of those. So doesn't it kind of feel like teachers pay teachers for free? Like
Yes.
whenever people share all this stuff?
It really does. The resources that people have created out for Jamboard,
Mhm.
I don't even think you can get through it. There's so much amazing stuff out there. But even if you just start with one simple, idea to embed into the classroom and go from there, you will feel like the inspiration and just really, really soar with it. So I wanted to show that slide just with all of the different inspiring templates and resources. But
Mhm.
I'd also like to give a tip.
Mhm.
So, like, let's say it's your first time doing a Jamboard with your class. Um, and I've heard this like from many of the teachers who have tried it. Make sure when you introduce it to your students, even if they've done it in another class, give them some time, like some wiggle room and some time to like get their excitement out for using this tool because it's kind of fun for them. It's like a new tool. So do like a fun, just go in there and like check out all the tools kind of thing and just go nuts, right? And then kind of introduce them to like a lesson or a collaborative activity you know, because it's so easy to use and collaborative. Um, if you jump in without giving them some time to kind of play around with it, it might get a little like overly exciting and derail like the lesson that you wanted to do. So that's a tip that I wanted to share, and that kind of piggybacks to some other feedback that we've heard about Jamboard. And um, you know, some people are afraid to use it because of the collaboration and that others can delete others' stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I really feel that those are great opportunities, to do what? To embed some digital citizenship conversations and expectations and stuff like that. So I would give advice to don't be so afraid of it because of that feature where others can delete, because we've had very little problems. And one teacher gave some advice, right? They said one thing you could do if you see something that was deleted, click undo. It'll bring it back, right? So it's not like always the end of the world. Just click undo, and then if you see a student or something happening, just have a quick conversation, and usually that will solve it. But don't be afraid. Give them some time to play with it, and then have some like little digital citizen conversations to like make the collaboration a nicer place.
Those are such good tips, and I feel like that's just in general really good advice whenever you're using technology in the classroom. It's like I think sometimes when you start to get a feel for a new tool like Jamboard, and you start to see some of those loopholes, I think sometimes people will shy away from them because it's possible to abuse it. And sometimes I worry that we're throwing out the possibility of some really good stuff because it could potentially, maybe, I don't know, it might
Yeah.
get abused, like if the kid, and I've had tools abused in my own class a number of times. One of my top examples is I did like a little back channel in something where students were able to type messages into it. And I gave it to them a little too quickly before I laid down the ground rules on how we were going to use it. I don't even know if the ground rules really would have mattered with that class. And they just started like bombing it with a whole bunch of randomness and everything. And for one of the first times ever, I was like, close your devices now. I had lost total control whatsoever. But eventually we started to get the hang of it. And those kids realized that what we were going to do with that back channel was cooler than some of the boring textbook activities that I could have given them. And they played ball with me. And then the like couple of them that were those persistent nuts to crack, those are the ones that were like going to keep toeing the line and pushing it and pushing it, and pushing it. Eventually I just like have the one-on-one with them and be like,
Right.
look, we can do this the easy way. We can do this the hard way, and like, don't make me have to come up with a way to fix the problem. Let's just meet in the middle and do something cool, and I love your heart on that. Like that's it's a relationship thing, really, isn't it?
Yep. And I think for the most part, they don't want to lose out on these cool like learning opportunities. They let them get their little, like, that's why I really just suggest let them get their excitement out, and then lay some, little expectations, and, go from there. And one of the templates I shared, actually, I was inspired. I don't, if you want to just jump to the template that says, would you rather, go up just a
Got one of these up here.
It's actually no, it's actually in this presentation,
Okay.
kind of close to where the breakout room was. And
Okay. Gotcha.
Dr. Kristen Matson, if you know, she's a big digital citizenship educator, and she recently came up. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, Matt. My fault. It's a little lower.
Okay.
It's closer to the templates. My bad.
That's okay. This is real life here, folks. This is like us trying to just figure it
It's
out.
one of those. Yes. Sorry. So she recently came up with these would you rather cards right there for digital citizenship. And if you click on the title of would you rather lesson? Yes. Thank you. So sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
There are these amazing conversation cards towards digital citizenship that you can totally use with the Jamboard. And it's like, would you rather have YouTube or Netflix? Would
Mm.
you rather lose your access to your, this technology or that? And you
Oh,
can really embed some really cool conversations
mhm.
with these lessons.
Yeah.
Um,
There, I
oh,
finally think I got some of it to load up. I was telling Maria before we came on that my Google Drive has been kind of difficult recently, but yeah, here we go. Oh, so there was one right there. Deal with friend drama in person or resolve it through a messaging app.
so
Interesting.
yeah, you can have these up, and then people are going to, use the sticky notes or whatever and just say what they'd rather do. And then you can have these awesome, powerful
Mhm.
conversations about digital citizenship.
Yeah.
So these are really great.
Lose permanent access to the internet or be permanently quarantined in your home. I don't want either of those things. I
You
guess
gotta choose.
that's the hallmark of a good would you rather question, right? It's like you don't want to pick either of them or you really want to pick both of them and you
Right.
have to decide.
Such a
Um,
good point. When you were clicking on the link to make a copy, I want to make a comment about that. So
right.
heads up, when there's a link that's, forcing you to make a copy, sometimes it takes a while to open up that Jamboard. If you keep clicking make a copy, you're going to get like 7 or 8 copies of it in your
Yeah.
Jamboard. So I want to give a little tip about that.
You know what? I was doing when I was having trouble getting my thing to load. That's when I took it off the screen. I think I was hitting the make a copy button a couple times. So I just learned that one the hard way from you.
You'll just have a few extra copies. Not the end of the world.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Exactly. So I think now this is kind of a natural segue to something else we wanted to talk about, and that is about templates. Because and we were talking earlier about that. Well, here, let me put it back up. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth here. Like the, which one was it? The check-in one that I was talking about. Remember how I said it shows that it's view only and you go, oh man, I'd like to have a copy of that. The sort of the idea behind templates is that it is something that's set up and ready to go that you can make a copy of and distribute right out to your students. And so there are lots of teachers that have created a lot of Jamboard templates where you can just pull theirs up and make a copy of it. Or you can always make your own template and push it out to students. And it's kind of like, in some ways, it's like a ready-made lesson, like this one here. This one has the 3 spots and it's got the names. And it's like, if you push that out to students, there's action that students can take to complete that assignment. And so we can make those in the same way that this one was made, right, Maria?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So what are any like advice that you've got on that, or like, tell us some stuff related to templates that would be helpful.
So when you're creating your own templates, I mentioned earlier that Jamboard just turned on this new feature, which lets you set a background to an image. So
Mhm.
if you're making a template that you are going to have students interact on top of, you can make your background image in another app. For example, I love using Google Slides to build your background image.
Mhm.
Just like that check-in thing that you had up that Chris had created, you can create that in, let's say, Google Slides,
Uh-huh.
add your lines, add your images. And then once you're done creating it, you simply download it as a PNG or a JPEG,
Mhm.
and then simply import that as a background on a Jamboard. And there is your template. And then you can create parts on top of it that are movable
Yes.
that students can interact with, or they could add their own.
The part that I'm
Look
making.
how quickly you're making that.
Right? Yeah. The part that I'm making right now, this is all the stuff that you want to lock in place. This is the stuff that you don't want students to move around accidentally. And so if there is stuff that you want them to move around, like the sticky notes or whatever, you don't want to make that as part of your background, because the background, I'm about to save this as an image. And of course, whenever you save something as an image, you can't move things around in the image anymore. So I'm going to go to File, Download as, I always use the PNG. That's just me, for the image file. So I save it, and then I come over here to my Jam, and now I can set the background and choose that image. And see, look, with the upload feature, if you just got done downloading it, it's just super easy to drag it right out of that little tray and pull it up here. And then look, now it's back there.
It is.
Yeah, this is what Maria was just talking about. And see, now I'm trying to click on that word good and trying to change it, and I can't. This is the part that I, the drawing, this is the part that I just drew earlier. So now I'm using the eraser. I can erase this because it was something that I added to the frame on Jamboard, but anything that I did in my background image, then obviously I can't. So that's a really good tip.
I think it's going to be really helpful. A lot of our math teachers in my district use it. I think maybe in general, a lot of math teachers use it. They can now embed those math problems or that graph or whatever, and then the students no longer have to fuss with those things moving around on the page. It just locks it. So I think it's really going to be helpful. That analyzation that Todd had, where they annotated on top of it, he could just embed that as a background. Boom.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the same sort of idea. There's that picture again. And so he could have taken that picture from that text and made that into, he could have even taken a screenshot of that, stuck it onto this slide, gotten the sizing just right, download it as an image file, and then go stick it into the background. And then the students would be able to mark all over it, put sticky notes on it, highlight it, all that stuff.
And, let's say you wanted to use another tool, maybe like Canva. I know Canva for education is like a huge popular tool right now that you can make so many different things. If you were to use Canva to create your templates, you totally can. Just make sure when you are resizing it, just make sure to resize it as a presentation. And then it will make it fit exactly like a Google slide, exactly like a Jamboard, and then download that as a PNG.
Smart. Yeah. That's a really good idea. Okay. So if we want to, that's one really great, those are a couple of really great tips, all sort of revolving around the background, right? Like if we can set that background so that students can't move it. And again, this isn't like a season control type of thing. This is just setting students up for success, right? Yeah. So we set the background up, and maybe, we might pre-fill some of these sticky notes with the kids' names, or maybe we leave them blank and we let the kids do that themselves. That's kind of a decision that I think the teacher makes a lot of times based on, what the appropriate scaffolds are for the students. And then once we have everything set up, like let's say that this template, we have our background the way that we want it. We have all of the movable pieces set up for the kids the way that we want it. Maybe we were talking about this earlier, duplicated this slide a few times. And actually, this is not a bad idea, because sometimes whenever you put a whole bunch of kids, and I think that there's a max of like 20 people on one jam. So if you had, let's say that you got, sorry,
it's 20 frames. You can have a lot more people on it, but you're right. There's 20 actual maximum of 20 frames.
Yeah. So if you have a whole bunch of people in one, let's say that we had all of these other slides deleted and there was just this one. When you've got a whole bunch of people moving things around on one frame, chaos can ensue. So I've heard some teachers talk about how they will make multiple, and maybe they'll say, okay, students 1, 2, 3, and 4, like they'd say their names. You're going on slide number 5, 5, 6, 7, and 8. You're going on slide number 6. You all are going on slide number 7. And then the other neat thing about that is it does create small groups. If you're looking for the kids who are going to try to find ways to sabotage your frame, they may be a little less likely to do that in a small group as well, and it's a little more intimate. Anyway, those are just a couple things I thought of as far as setting up the template. So let's say we've got this part down. We've got the background image. We've got any like movable things that we want kids to do on it. What do we do next?
So the next thing you would do is you're going to share this and make it view only.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, anyone with a link,
Mm-hmm.
you can make it anyone with the link can be a viewer, okay?
Okay.
And at this point, if let's say you use Google Classroom, you can attach that to an assignment and make a copy for each student if this is the type of assignment that you want every individual to have. You can make a copy, and then everybody has their own individual copy. And what's beautiful about that, a lot of our teachers use this when they're, when they want the students to work on their own
Mm-hmm.
Jamboard. Then you simply go to Google Classroom, click on that assignment, and then you'll see the little Google Drive folder
Mm-hmm.
of that assignment, and every little Jamboard is going to be in there. So you can just see all of the kids' work all at once.
Oh, wow. Okay. Walk me through that one more time. That was really good. How do you set that folder up one more time?
Okay. So you go to Google Classroom and you post an assignment.
Yeah.
Attach a Jamboard that you want every student to have a copy of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're going to select make a copy for each student
Mm-hmm.
and assign it. If I'm a student in your class, I open that assignment up and I do my work. As a
Mm-hmm.
teacher, if you're ready to go check out all their work, you can just go to the assignment or to classwork, find that assignment, and then each assignment has a Google Drive folder attached to it, and then all of their Jamboards are going to be in that
Oh,
folder.
wow. So you go into Drive. This is after you've created the assignment and everything. You go into Drive, you find your classroom folder, you find the folder for that assignment, and all of their little Jamboard files are sitting there ready for you to look at. That is so cool. That's brilliant. I will say also, by the way, we will jot down all of those instructions that Maria just gave into the PDF notes. So if you need like a visual that you can take away, if you want to go try that yourself, just go grab those out of the PDF notes. That is super smart. So one thing that you just mentioned that I thought was a really good point is that there may be two different kinds of templates that we make.
Yes.
We might make one template, a template that has, one or four or whatever frames in it that we want to go to one individual student. That might be like our graphic organizer type of thing. And so what we'd really like to do is go to the digital photocopier, and make like, copies for each kid. So let's say I made this one Jamboard template. It has 2 frames on it, and I want students to do something with both of those frames, but I want them to do it individually. So this would be almost like if you were doing old school worksheets, you would get photocopies for everyone and everybody gets their own copy. If you have one of those, the sharing settings are a little different, right?
Yes.
We're going to go to anyone on the internet or anyone within your school district or however you want to set that up can view.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to set that as a we want to set that as a make a copy for each student in Google Classroom, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So the other version of this would be we want to set something up where everybody collaborates on it all together. And that's a little different, right, Maria?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So if this was a everybody is going to collaborate together kind of lesson, maybe it's like a 4 corners debate one.
Yeah.
Then you would switch the settings from viewer to editor. So now this Jamboard's basically live, and anybody with that link who jumps into it can add stuff.
Yes.
So then, yep, you would share that link.
So it's nice that it's that easy. That, I mean, basically you want to set it with anyone with the link. And if you want to make individual copies, you set it as view. And then you just, set it up in Google Classroom as a make a copy for each student. Or even if you don't have Google Classroom, you could give them this view link and then they could hit the 3 dots and make their own copy.
Yes, absolutely. Or you can even help them out a little more and force the copy.
Oh yeah. Do you want to, I'll do it on the screen. You tell them how to do it.
So you would take that view only URL And then at the end of that file, instead of, you're going to delete the word viewer and change it to copy.
I'm going to delete the word edit.
Oh, edit. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. So if you can see it up here, it's this word edit, and then anything after it, we delete it, just like Maria said, and type that word copy. And then we grab this link, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm going to go copy this link, and then you can share that with your students, right?
Yep. And as soon as they click on it, instead of it opening as view only and then they have to make a copy, it'll say that instead right there.
Yeah. And it's so polite too. Would you like to make a copy of this Untitled Jam? Well, yes, thank you. You know, we're using our digital manners.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So that's cool. So yeah, if you want to make templates so that you're not just giving students like a blank Jamboard, you know, making templates like that is super easy. And then also in the PDF notes, you know, we're going to have some links to some different resources. Actually, you know what? Not even in the notes, but right here in Maria's slides, she has that one slide down at the bottom. This one right here that has more Jamboard templates and ideas. There's a ton of links right here where you can go get some of those ready to use in class tomorrow type of templates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, Maria, we've covered a lot of ground here. This is great. And, I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot of important stuff, but in some ways it almost feels like we're just kind of scratching the surface too. Like there's a lot, and the more that you watch, the more that you see the really cool things that teachers are doing. So, do you have any like, anything that we didn't cover, any like last words of advice or anything about all of this?
If I could share the last, I think they're the last maybe like 4, 5 slides. It's go to fun extras. It's like towards the bottom. I just want to show a few. Yes, okay. Just some fun extras. So we did mention this one. We don't have to go over this one again. That's where you can set the background image. Okay. But there's some fun extensions that really help add a little, you know, something to your Jamboard. So you can't add videos. That's a feature. You can't put links of YouTubes. You can't add videos, but you can add GIFs. Okay. So GIFs are a type of like image file. So this is kind of a fun example, you know, where I just threw Will Ferrell in this like little holiday scene. But you could add a little movement to your frames. If you go to the next one, it's a little more, you know, instructional. Let's say I wanted the students to know how to Google search for an image that's transparent. I could make a little GIF and throw it in my Jamboard template so they have the steps right there. They can watch this little GIF of me showing, you know, how to do the search for a image. And this little GIF can like live in your Jamboard. So although it's not a video, you can make these little like how-to GIFs and add them to your Jamboards. You know, they could be of anything. They could be like you drawing how to solve a math problem. They could be, I don't know, like how to tie a shoe, whatever you want, but it adds like a little motion video type thing to your Jam.
That's cool. So, so what you did with this that you see on here, this is an image file. And so all you did was you just recorded your screen and you turned it into one of these GIF images. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I call it GIF. Turn it into one of these. And I think we can agree to not go to war about the pronunciation.
We won't.
Yeah, but you can save it as one of these GIF files, and then just stick that thing onto a frame in your Jamboard, and it looks like a video, even though it's not a video. That is brilliant. I love that. And even I would imagine, you know, kind of like your Will Ferrell example up here, you didn't record that one probably. You just found it and stuck it on there. So if you want to just stick one on there that somebody else has already created that for fun or whatever, that's great. Or you could use it as, you know, taking the place of a little instructional video. That is really good. Yes.
And the Will Ferrell one, just so you know, that was from I added the Jiffy extension. It's a Chrome extension, and I,
Hmm.
found him. He was actually it was like one of the first ones. It's why I used it,
Yeah.
and he I made him transparent by using a a site called, oh my gosh, why am I blanking out? It's oh, hold on, I'm so sorry, I'm blanking out. But you can remove the background.
Is it remove BG?
It's not remove BG. I'm so sorry for it's in my notes, but and I
Okay.
used it because
Guess what? We're going to use the power of coming back to the video later. So once we get off of air, Maria's going to look it up and we'll stick it in, surprise, surprise, into your PDF notes. So
I apologize. My brain is, that's how what happens these days. So
yeah,
anyway, you can remove the background of your GIFs, and so you can place them on top of different pictures, and then you don't have that
right.
square
Yeah.
image. So that's a fun extension. Another good extension, if you go forward just I think one or two, is the Bitmoji.
Yeah.
So you can add the Bitmoji Chrome extension, and again that adds a little personality of you onto your lesson. So you can add something fun like that.
Hmm.
So easy to do. You just add the extension and find it and drag it down. And then the other one, the last little fun tip is for my math teachers out there. If you write a lot of math problems, there's this fantastic extension called Equatio. You would open up a Google Doc. The free version works in a Google Doc, and write your equations. You can either select it as a screenshot and add it as like a background image, or just copy and paste the problems onto your jam frame.
Mm, that's
So,
great. So you could set it as the background so that they can't move it around. Or if you're just, want to do it quick and easy, you could just stick it on there as an image file.
yep, just copy
That's
and paste it. Super easy.
That is fantastic. Oh my goodness. I feel like we could go on and on and
I
on and
know.
on about this. This is such good stuff. So to kind of wrap this up real quick, Maria, if people have, and I don't know how this is possible, like if they've already looked through all of the resources that you've given us and everything, and they're like, oh, I need some more, or if they want to get in touch with you, or they just need more Maria Arfanakis in their life, where's the best place for them to go?
You can find me on Twitter. There's my handle right in my name. It's at Maria Galanis. I'm also on Instagram. You could follow me there. Let's connect. And I love the connections we make through all this. So that's where the power is. So I'm so excited. Please reach out anytime, and I'm sure I'll learn something from you all as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hey, that's the reason that you and I are on this video presentation together. It's through the power of being connected online, right?
Yes, absolutely.
There you go. All right. Hey, this has been fantastic. So practical. So many good ideas in here. Maria, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, it's been such a pleasure, such an honor. Thank you, Matt. You're incredible. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Hey, it was great. Thanks so much. I want to thank you so much for watching too, for being a part of the Ditch That Textbook Digital Summit. We will see you on the next video. Take care.